Hi, I'm Kimberly from Bourgondien, and I'm going to be talking about math addition and putting together add-ins as my stimulated video. The first thing we're going to talk about is our learning objective for the students, which is students will be able to identify add-ins using addition to find the sum or the whole. We also have a language objective, which is to have the students be able to listen, speak, read, write, using the vocabulary, number bonds, parts, whole, number sentence. And we also have a data objective, which is students will be able to demonstrate their knowledge of putting together add-ins at the close of the lesson in formal assessments. The data will be collected in the form of raw scores and percentages. The results of these formal assessments will be used to evaluate the achievement rate of the class. Then we have our Common Core Learning Standards, which we have a technology standard because we are incorporating technology. We have English as a second language standard, and we also have our math standard. Then we have our vocabulary, which is add-ins or parts, whole, total, putting together, addition, number bonds, number sentence, and part math. The lesson sequence I will get to. The assessments will be done through informal observations done by the teachers to gain understanding, as well as 2 formal assessments which will be done in my group and the seat work group during this lesson. And the modifications are the CALA lesson planning, which is the cognitive academic language learning approach, which has been incorporated into this lesson. It's research-based, and it's been effective for students identified as English language learners. We also have modeling, so at all times possible, examples and activities will be modeled by the teacher or by peers in order to gain the greatest degree of comprehension and to guide the students with language needs. Number 3 would be scaffolding or higher order thinking, and the teacher will begin by prompting prior knowledge or building it where needed. Throughout the lesson, the teacher will aim to consistently build this prior knowledge and expand into more complex ideas and concepts. We also have our seating. The students who are identified with special needs will be seated closer to the teacher to enhance their success. Visual reinforcement will be, the content has been made more accessible by providing visual reinforcements throughout the lesson. Also native language instruction, where the student's native language will be used to explain or clarify some part of the lesson in order for them to obtain the objective. Time on task, the time that's been allotted for each activity has purposely been set in order to maintain the maximum attention, focus, and engagement of all students and to obtain the set objectives. We also will be using graphic organizers to help organize all of the content that's presented, and we also will be using manipulatives, which help as a visual representation. The first thing for our lesson, for the lesson sequence, will be filling out our number bond up here, and I will be asking the students what each one is. So the first one I would ask what this is, and they would tell me that it's a part. And then I'll ask them which is the other part, and they will tell me that this one's the other part. And then we have our whole, of course, and we will discuss this. And then for higher order thinking, I can ask them what 2 parts do we put together and why. From here, we will be watching a video. I'll let you watch a little bit of it. This is from the Envisions math program that we use at my school.
How many red cubes did he pick?
So it stops and pauses for them to think. It asks how many red cubes did he pick. Well, we can count. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would continue it, and it would tell us if we were correct.
Kenny picked 4 red cubes. How many blue cubes did he pick?
Again, it pauses to ask how many did he pick. 1, 2. Good job. I'd ask
He picked 2 blue cubes. How many cubes does he have in all?
We would count how many he has in all. We know that 4 is one part and 2 is the other part because we'd discuss it. And then we'd be asking what our whole is, how many in all. We know that there's 6.
He has 6 in all. You can describe the parts as 4 and 2. You can add to find the sum or the whole. What is the sum of 4 and 2?
And again, it pauses for them to think. We have a number sentence now up here, so we use the part mat. We have our number sentence. We use the number bond beforehand. I can draw it up here again for them if necessary, and we would go from there. After the lesson is done, the students have boards, and I will call them up, and this one is seat work, and then they go to another teacher, and then they would go from that teacher to seat work would be the other group that switches with them. Then there's computers and my group, and then again, my group and then computers, so they flop halfway through the lesson. So they would line up. The other teacher in the room, she would have them over here. I would have my group in the back. We have the computers, and then the seat work group would be working in the front at these two tables. Now, at the other teacher's table, the students will be, they will do a do now, which will pop up in just a second. It's a do now where they have to go 1 through 20, so they're just filling in the 1 through 20, and that's it. And when they're done, she'll check it and fix anything that needs to be checked. Next, the students will be working in the Envision's Math student workbook, and in her group, they will be doing word problems. So an example of one I have up on the board would be the pet store has 3 bunnies and 4 cats. How many pets does the pet store have in all? There's a part mat over here, and the number sentences for them to fill in. They have 2 pages that look like this, so that would be her group. And then after that, the next group will be seat work group, which rotates with the other teacher. Now the students will be giving manipulatives, so they have Unifix cubes, and the first one up here, I know it's hard to see, I apologize. The first one up here is 2, so they would take 2 cubes, and they would put it in this part of the part mat, and the other one says 1, and they put 1 cube. And 2 and 1, they can put them together, and know that 2 and 1 makes 3, and they would write it up here in the whole. This one will be collected as a formal assessment to see what they have learned. It's also done independently, so it really does show if they've gotten the objective or not. For the computer group, let me just pop it back up. For the computer group, they will be doing a, perfect. I was nervous it wasn't going to pop. They will be doing a game from the National Council of Teaching Mathematics. This is called concentration, and the students will be picking windows, so they see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots, and they have to match it to the correct number or 10 frame, whatever one pops up. So let's see. Nope, that one was 4. 6. So some might be numbers, some might be dots, some might be 10 frames. And then they would do that, and they can play again and again to help them better their matching ability for numbers and knowing the differences. Then in my group, we will be doing an activity where we will be working with the part whole mat, a number bond, and a number sentence. Now I have red apples and green apples, and I made it into a fun little verbal word problem where the students will physically pick out. So I picked out 3 red apples, so I would have them draw 3 red apples, or 3 circles, because it takes very long. So we would go 1, 2, 3, and then they would pull out from here how many more they want. So I pulled out 2 green apples. So they would put 2 over here on our part mat. So we know that these are our parts up here. So I have 3. So I fill this in my number bond. 3 and 2 as my parts. and we would put them together to make 5. Now from here we need to fill in our number sentence, and we know that 3 and 2 makes 5. After they fill that in, we will also say it together. We would say 3 and 2 makes 5. After we've done this, I'll put the Unifix cubes or our apples back into the bag, and we do this more. We'd erase it because it would be in a Smart Pal, which allows for Expo markers to be used. And we would do it again and again until I felt that they were comfortable enough to do it by themselves. From there, they will be given this assessment, which has a part mat, a number bond, and a number sentence. So the first one has 3 dots. They would be able to put it in to the part on the number bond, and the other part is 5. So 3 and 5 is going to make how many altogether? They can count the dots in the part mat, and they'd fill in their number sentence. After this is done, I will collect it. They will make sure they check over their work, and that is the end of the lesson. I will, then they will all line up, and we switch. So my group goes to computers comes to me, seat work goes to the other teacher, the other teacher's group goes to seat work, and we do the same thing over again. At the very end of both changing of the groups, I'll bring the students back over to the carpet to discuss what we've learned about and any key vocabulary or words that were used to help them in the lesson, or that they've noticed that we use, like part, whole, number bond, put together, adding, and we would make a wordle from it. I made an example one for you to see, and that would be the conclusion of the lesson. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.